What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Let's Talk Tottenham. And today we're going to do some Tottenham News Digest looking at this new message that's just come out from Daniel Levy. Now, this is the last home game of the season against Aston Villa. And as always, Daniel Levy likes to have a message for us supporters in the program. And so I wanted to take a look at this and highlight a couple different things. You obviously can read it for yourself. I'll put a link in the description down below. There's a couple things that I find interesting. From what I know about Daniel Levy, he doesn't seem like one to typically apologize. He is always going to say he's done nothing wrong, doing everything for the club. And so I find it interesting. He does make some comments about where he thinks the club has gone wrong a little bit. So here's the chairman's message. Club chairman Daniel Levy provides a message for supporters in the matchday program for this evening's final home match of the season against Aston Villa. So you can read this, like I said, on your own. But here's the highlighted part for me, where I feel like this is not the way I would have wanted you to start this letter. It says, this season, for many reasons, we have not met or raised our expectations on the pitch. Great. I'm with you. Since we lost the Champions League final in June 2019, we have invested in excess of $250 million in new players. Everyone had high hopes with the squad we had assembled. Unfortunately, despite sitting top of the Premier League in December, we have not been able to sustain this position. We reached the Carabao Cup final, however, we had a disappointing exit from the Europa League and now find ourselves fighting to qualify for Europe, having competed in European competition for 14 of the last 15 seasons. This, to me, sounds like a man who is saying, look, I'm doing my job. I spent $250 million. It's what? The players, the manager, the people, not me, that are not doing their job. And I feel a little frustrated by that. So I'll give it to Daniel. You did spend $250 million on this club, and you did think that these players were going to make things happen. But here's where I just sense in the way this was written, and I don't know if they have a PR person that could help them, you know, kind of tailor these things and wordsmith these things to make it clearer. But here's what I don't like. We reached the Carabao Cup final. Is that the goal? How about we win the Carabao Cup final? And we had a disappointing exit from Europa and find ourselves fighting to qualify for Europe, having competed in European competition for 14 of the last 15 seasons. Again, competing in 14 of the last 15 seasons, is that the goal? I thought this game was about glory. One trophy. Admit it. Admit it that things are not going well. And I know he can't technically admit it, because what is he going to say? I didn't do the job and therefore you can see me out the door. He's never going to say that. But I do think, man, to start by talking about your high expectations that weren't met, you did your job, everyone else is letting you. I just don't see this being the greatest way to start off this letter. So I wanted to talk about that, but then I also wanted to talk about where I do think he's actually kind of, I don't know if he's apologizing, but he's certainly acknowledging a misstep. Now, before I get to the highlighted part, let me just read this sentence just above it. It says, I, Daniel, have said it many times, and I will say it again. Everything we do is in the long-term interests of the club. I want to believe the best. Obviously, there's some question marks about the board and its communication with the trust. I said that in my last video, that they broke trust with the trust by telling them they weren't going to be part of a Super League, and then they were very much a part of a Super League, signing documents and such. So again, you can say that you care about the long-term interests of the club, but what does the club mean? I think that's the issue. The definition of what club means for Daniel Levy versus what club means to me or you, those are two different things, I have a feeling. And so he's kind of playing with the semantics of the word, and that's frustrating. So anyway, let me get to this highlighted section. It says, as a club, we have been so focused on delivering the stadium and dealing with the impact of the pandemic that I feel we lost sight of some key priorities and what's truly in our DNA. Our work in the community and with the NHS is an example of when we get it right, but we don't get everything right. It has never been because we don't care about or respect you, our fans. Nothing could be further from the truth. Now, again, I wish it would just be a statement of what we did wrong rather than, I know we might have done some stuff wrong, but look at how great we are. I would disagree with Daniel on this part. I don't think it was being so focused on delivering the stadium and dealing with the impact of the pandemic. I think it was the stadium, period. I mean, it was talked about many times how much Daniel Levy cared about every detail of the stadium, and I love that. I care about the stadium feeling like White Hart Lane. And I've never even been to White Hart Lane. I've never even been to the new stadium. But when I get that chance to go, I wanted to have that vibe. I wanted to have that feel so that I, as a fan, can experience that. So good on him in some ways. But because he has his fingers in every pie, he missed out on selling players that needed to move on and getting rid of that dead wood and being willing to spend a little bit more to bring in guys like Bruno Fernandes and Ruben Diaz and Jack Grealish. I mean, those kinds of things are what frustrate us as supporters. Long-term interests of the club, you mean the stadium, you mean the brand, or do you mean the club, meaning these guys on this pitch, the badge and the shirt that we care about and love so much. Lastly, and very briefly, I just want to talk about one more statement that was made. It says, "We have announced we shall establish a club advisory panel that we believe will provide wide, authentic representation and ensure our fans are at the heart of club decisions, with the chair to be appointed annually as a non-executive of the board with full voting rights, a first for any Premier League club." Again, Daniel, this statement at the end to say a first for any Premier League club, at the end of acknowledging that fan representation was not there before. I mean, this going back to what I said about that interview from one of the fans from the protest saying they categorically denied being part of a Super League to the face of the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. And now you're going to have a fan on that board. Thankfully, because you can't get away with these lies anymore. Now, the question might be is, can that board meet together without the non-executives of the board? And I would assume probably they'll probably make some sort of provision for that. And so there could still be conversations had behind closed doors in ways that erode the trust of supporter to club, and so I think that's disappointing. And I'm glad that they've got this new non-executive member being a fan on the board. But man, to just kind of like pretend that, wow, we're the first ones to do it, it's just like, can we just acknowledge the state of reality? Like, things are broken, and just say you want to fix it. Now, the last part too, it says we shall focus on the recruitment of a new head coach. I think that's a very, another word that's being used very specifically. Is this a head coach position? We are acutely aware of the need to select someone whose values reflect those of our great club and return to playing football with the style for which we are known, free-flowing, attacking, and entertaining, whilst continuing to embrace our desire to see young players flourish from our academy alongside experienced talent. Now, I actually really appreciate this phrasing and explanation because I feel like it explains what Tottenham Hotspur are about. But I think this is, again, a way of acknowledging but not acknowledging that Jose Mourinho's style was not the style of Tottenham Hotspur. You know, I've seen some people say they don't really care about that so much anymore. I think that is something that is a part of the history and the culture of the club. And then this continuing to embrace our desire to see young players flourish from our academy alongside experienced talent. I love that. Personally, I think this is what we're about. And I understand that there are always going to be clubs that are going to be able to buy experienced talent and not have to worry about their academy. But I love to see one of our own, Harry Kane, out there on the pitch, blowing it up out there. Having these guys that love this club, Harry Kane, Harry Winks, Ryan Mason, Japhet Tanganga, right? Oliver Skip. It's beautiful when we see that combination of academy and experienced players coming together. And so, yeah, I'm a little disappointed with this statement from the chairman. I think I would rather just be honest about reality instead of trying to like put a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling foundation. We know what's going on. We've been around, dude. You're not pulling the wool over our eyes. We've seen what's happened. You did focus so much on the stadium that you didn't invest for 3 transfer windows, and here we are. We are reaping what we sow. In some ways, this is about the best we can expect from Daniel Levy into acknowledging his mistakes, but it could have been better. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Tottenham News Digest. If you like what you see, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get into those comments. What did you think of Daniel Levy's statements? As ever, it was great talking with you.